The dense jungle stretched endlessly, a living, breathing entity teeming with life. The cries of howler monkeys echoed through the thick canopy, and unseen birds flitted between towering trees. Humidity clung to everything like a second skin, and the scent of damp earth filled the air. Dr. Marissa Diaz, archaeologist, moved forward, her boots crunching against the undergrowth. Determined and pragmatic, she had spent years chasing legends, and now, she was on the verge of uncovering one of the greatest, the Sword of Moctezuma. Sweat trickled down her brow as she adjusted her wide-brimmed hat, scanning the path ahead. Behind her, Martinez, a wiry Mayan man in his early 20s, struggled with an old metal detector. His hands trembled slightly as he studied the erratic needle. "Dr. Diaz, the readings are unusual," he said, voice uneasy. "They fluctuate, like something moving beneath us." Marissa wiped her brow. "Probably mineral deposits. Not ghost stories. We're here for the Sword of Moctezuma." Martinez hesitated. "The elders say the sword chooses its wielder." Marissa scoffed. "Legends are for tourists. We're here for science." They pressed on, pushing through thick vines and moss-covered ruins. Rising ahead of them, half consumed by nature, were the remains of ancient Mayan pyramids. Carvings of warriors and gods lined the stone walls, their worn faces staring at the intruders. Martinez whispered, "It's not just a ruin, Dr. Diaz. This place. It's alive." Marissa smirked. "Alive? We're here for a relic, not ghost stories." The deeper they ventured, the heavier the air became. A strange mist curled through the roots, clinging to the jungle floor. They soon arrived at an ancient pool, black and unmoving, its surface eerily still. As Marissa peered into it, her reflection rippled unnaturally, shifting into unfamiliar shapes before snapping back into place. Martinez stepped back. "The water reflects the truth, but sometimes it shows what shouldn't be seen." Marissa frowned. "What are you talking about?" Before Martinez could answer, a loud crack echoed from the jungle. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the trees shuddered as if something massive had stirred within the depths of the forest. Marissa tensed. "Stay alert. Let's move." They reached a ruined temple, its entrance yawning like the mouth of a beast. Before they could enter, armed men emerged from the shadows, faces obscured by bandanas. Their leader, a stern-faced man with Cuban features, stepped forward, his hand resting on the hilt of a machete. "Dr. Diaz," he said, voice cold. "We've been expecting you." Marissa's hand hovered near her pistol. "Who are you?" The man's gaze never wavered. "We represent a national interest. The sword belongs to us." Marissa scoffed. "The Sword of Moctezuma is a historical artifact. It belongs in a museum." The Cuban leader smiled. "History is written by the victors. This sword will give us the power to liberate our people." Martinez shifted uneasily. "The elders were right. This place is dangerous." Without warning, the jungle itself seemed to react. A sudden gust of wind howled through the ruins, and the mist thickened into twisting tendrils. The Cuban soldiers glanced at each other, uneasy. Then, shadows began to move, figures with hollow eyes emerging from the ancient carvings, stepping down from the walls as if waking from centuries of slumber. A deep, guttural chant resonated through the air, the voices of the long-dead guardians speaking in a language lost to time. The Cuban leader sneered. "Tricks won't stop us. Kill them." Gunfire erupted. Bullets slammed into the stone around them, but the shadows ignored them, gliding forward. Marissa dove behind a crumbling column, returning fire with precision. Martinez vanished into the jungle, using the thick foliage to his advantage. Marissa moved like a seasoned adventurer, rolling, ducking, and taking down enemies one by one. In the chaos, she spotted Martinez setting traps with vines and rocks. One by one, the Cuban soldiers fell, caught in his clever ambushes. But the shadows were relentless, whispering in an ancient tongue as they reached for the intruders. One soldier screamed as a shadow passed through him, his body crumbling into dust before their eyes. The battle raged on, but Marissa and Martinez pressed toward the main temple, a massive pyramid covered in mist. The wind howled as they climbed its steps, the entrance to a secret chamber waiting ahead. Inside, ancient carvings depicted gods and warriors with glowing eyes. And there, resting on a stone pedestal, was the Sword of Moctezuma. The blade shimmered with an ethereal light, its presence almost humming with power. The air pulsed with unseen energy, and faint whispers filled the chamber. Marissa approached cautiously. "It's real." Chana's voice was barely above a whisper. "Do not touch it, Dr. Diaz." But the temptation was too great. Marissa reached out, her fingers grazing the hilt. The air crackled with energy. A low rumble shook the chamber. A shadow appeared at the entrance, the Cuban leader. His eyes burned with fanaticism as he lunged for the sword. "It's mine," he shouted. "I'll free my people with it." The sword pulsed, and a blinding light exploded outward. The Cuban leader screamed as an unseen force hurled him across the room, slamming him into the stone wall. His body convulsed violently before disintegrating into ash. The whispers grew into deafening roars, as if the spirits of the past had awakened in fury. The walls cracked, and the ceiling trembled. The floor beneath them split open, revealing a deep chasm filled with swirling golden light. The voices of ancient warriors surged from within, calling out in an unholy chorus. "Run!" Chana's yelled. "It's too powerful." Marissa grabbed Chana's, and together they sprinted through the collapsing ruins. Behind them, the entire temple caved in, swallowed by dust and rubble. As they emerged, they saw the shadows dissipate, whispering curses as they faded back into the walls of time. At the jungle's edge, they stopped, panting heavily. The once mighty pyramid was reduced to ruins. Marissa stared, her mind reeling. What was that?" Chana's, still awestruck, whispered, "The sword. It chooses. It is not for man to wield." Marissa looked at the sky, doubt and wonder filling her eyes. "I've seen things that can't be explained." A distant rumble echoed through the jungle. Above them, storm clouds gathered, lightning streaking across the sky. The legend was not over. Some things were never meant to be uncovered.